I just finished watching episode 6 of Alien Earth, The Fly, and I kept thinking, there's evil there that does not sleep. The vengeful eye is always watching. Hey everyone, this is Digital Charcuterie. My name is James. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you're new to the channel and a fan of Alien and Alien Earth, hit that subscribe button. We talk about it all the time right here with you, discussing every episode we can, every little bit of it that we want to. In the comments down below, let me know your thoughts of episode 6, The Fly. Hell is breaking loose. It's just all going to hell. Some, because of stupidity, and some because don't mess with nature or aliens or monsters or beasts. Or, you know what? Joe Hermit is him, and he's the only character. He's got his head on his shoulder. He wants to get out. Get out. Follow Joe. Let's rewind right to the very start. Boy Cavalere is front and center with his stinky bare feet. Taking center stage of this show. His feet are most likely on IMDb at this point. He is untouchable, exuding this aura of control that's almost Peter Pan-like, but twisted into corporate power. He's got the island, the hybrids, the humans, and the experiments all wrapped around his little finger. Watching him like this is watching someone who refuses to let anyone grow up while simultaneously controlling every facet of their world. His playground isn't magical, it's terrifyingly structured, and he's the one calling the shots. The music choices underlined it perfectly, playing almost like a commentary on control and tension while the chaos unfolds beneath him. Last week, we were promised a meetup between Yutani and Prodigy, Cavalere and Yutani, and we got it in this episode, and it was very, very democratic. It was two sides discussing with an arbitrator right in the middle, saying, hey, let me know your sides and we'll come to a discussion. And here we see Boy Cavalere for who he is. He is manipulative. He is a genius for a reason. He plays Yutani like a fool, for a fool, like a fool or for a fool. One of the fool ways he plays Yutani. Yutani sees this, and Morrow is watching behind. My one thought as this scene goes on, because while they're doing it, Yutani is explaining why the ship and the specimens belong to Yutani, whereas Boy Cavalere is meant to suggest why the specimens belong to Prodigy. And in that, Boy Cavalere accuses Yutani. He says, well, how do we know the ship wasn't sent there to destroy Prodigy City, to destroy his city? How do we know the ship wasn't sent there for that? And Yutani says, we're investigating. He says, I don't want you investigating your own crash. And obviously, he's not wrong. Fact is, he's the one, obviously, that caused the crashing of the ship. We saw that in episode 5, which is obviously a flashback that takes place way well back. My question is, why didn't Morrow speak up? Was there nothing for Morrow to say? Is there no evidence left? Was that evidence destroyed in the crash? Or is that evidence, I guess that evidence would still be on Morrow uploaded his data. So it's somewhere around there. But he didn't speak up, and that kind of threw me off a little bit. That was my first thought, was why isn't Morrow speaking up on these accusations? Anyway, the bargaining ends, and Boy Cavalere gets what he wants. He gets $20 billion. And he gets 6 weeks with these specimens. 6 whole weeks, because that's how long quarantine lasts on Earth. They say if any kind of alien species comes, it's a 6-week quarantine, no if, and, or buts. Yutani says, I'll give you $50 billion for the specimens right now. And money, of course, is no real object to Boy Cavalere. I mean, it's great to have and everything. And $50 billion is better than $20 billion, if my math is correct on that. And I don't have anywhere close to either one of those billions. But he doesn't want the $50 billion. He wants the specimens. And so he says, nope, $20 million, I can't. They're under quarantine. I just can't risk the safety of Earth. And that safety of Earth is coming into play because it is not safe. Earth is not safe. And you know who knows that? Joe. The only smart man on the show, the only smart person on the show, Joe, he knows it's not safe. He tells his colleagues, there are monsters here. There are flat-out monsters here. They're going to rip everybody to shreds. And they say, yeah, but we're here, and we know. And I'm just like, Joe, I'm with you, buddy. I'd be long gone. I would be on like a paddleboard or like a kayak, just paddling away. That leads us right into Morrow and Kersh, a face-off that feels like a chess match where both players know the rules but are bending them in different ways. Kersh looks down on humans, seeing them as fragile and replaceable, while Morrow is thinking about oldness in terms of hybrids and synthetic bodies. Kersh's brilliance is in his subtlety. He can allow chaos to play out, letting creatures and Morrow act without directly intervening, technically following the rules while freeing himself from the oppressive system. Morrow, meanwhile, is playing a long game. He's the shadow to Boy's Peter Pan, manipulating, slightly orchestrating moves in secret, always staying one step ahead, showing us that sometimes being clever isn't about the brute force, but understanding the game at its deepest levels. I absolutely love the scene between Kersh and Morrow. I've been waiting for this, hoping something like this would happen. And you just see two powerhouses go at it. And I mean powerhouses in every respect of that word. I mean in character and in performance. These are two great actors who bring it every week on this show. They are highlighting the episodes, and they got to sit there in a very subtle exchange, not over the top, very low key. And I thought that was a really great, cool moment. Let's rewind a little bit and talk a little bit about Nibs. I was expecting a little bit more from her in this episode, but she got her due. It's a long episode. There's a lot going on in it, but Nibs got her due in a very strange way, in a way that didn't necessarily affect Nibs overall in terms of where she's going with her story, but more so where it's taking Wendy and taking the overall story. And now we see that there is a conflict of dilemma going on, especially between the doctors, where there's a whole conversation about rebooting her memory, taking her memory back, giving a memory wipe a few days to let her get rid of all this. We learned that the child that they took was a child of trauma, and that trauma was going to have effects on this hybrid creation of theirs in ways that they weren't really capable of, in ways that they had to let play out. But Prodigy is saying, no, we need to present these in a few weeks. This is all a presentation. This is boy Cavalere just being on top of his hubris pedestal, wanting to be the king of the mountain. He's going to present these as trophies to everybody, as look at what I have achieved. I am God, essentially, is what he is saying here. And we see Nibs, and she's just laying there peaceful and silent, and they're saying, she can't be pregnant. We have to bring this back. And Arthur, good old Arthur, he says, no. He says, this is not ethical. I can't do this. This is a person. This might not be a person's body, but there's a person within that body. And he says no. But Dame Sylvia, she totally counters it. She says, yeah, I'll do it. And so Arthur finds himself fired. And when he got fired, I said, just get the hell out of there, Arthur. I saw the teaser. I know what's coming. Just get out of there. Get out of there. Maybe we can change the course of history. Just get off the island. But no, so Dame Sylvia performs the operation. I guess you can call it an operation. Nibs wipes her memory clean. When Nibs wakes up, she has no recollection of anything except for the last time they were all together hanging out. Wendy reminds her of everything that's happening, and Nibs says, I don't have that. She doesn't remember the wreck. She doesn't remember being pregnant. She doesn't remember diddly squatly. So Wendy is all up in arms. She's like, what is going on here? She's starting to learn that she might not be as human as she thinks she is. I think she's kind of known all along, but now she's really starting to question it. To mirror that, we're seeing Joe now with his colleagues, and they're discussing whether or not Wendy is in fact his sister, and he says she is. At least to me, she is. And he's starting to believe more that Wendy is his sister. And even earlier in the episode, we kind of see where Wendy's head is starting to drift towards, and Nibs is just kind of pushing her in that direction, that she doesn't want to leave the island. Joe says, hey, let's get out of the island. And she goes, what if I don't want to leave? And Joe's all taken back by that, but he's going to learn later on that she needs to get that frick out of there. Joe, honestly, man, people need to listen to Joe. One thing I do love about this show, though, with the way that they're treating the hybrids, is they are children's minds in these adult synthetic bodies. And I love the way they act like children. Smee especially. I think Smee is the standout of the kids in terms of acting like a child. Just every time his mannerisms are so perfect, so totally childlike that you believe, you're like, oh yeah, they're kids in these bodies. But the one this week that really got to me was former Toodles Isaac, and he was, he's trying to come into his own. We saw that last week with the name change, and he wants to be Kersh's number one guy, but he also sees a threat that Curly is posing. Now, when I say threat, it's a childish threat, right? Like, kids always want to be better than their friends or their classmates, right? They always want to prove themselves, and they don't need any help. And in this instance, Kersh calls him and says, I'm off the island right now for a few hours. I need you to do me a solid. Go feed and give some water to the specimens. And Kersh is laying the groundwork for what he knows is coming. Toodles Isaac, he agrees to do this, and Kersh says, hey, is Curly around? She can help you. And he goes, no, Curly's not here. But of course, Curly is 10 feet away from this guy. And so he tells him he's got to go feed the specimens, and Curly asks if he needs any help, and he says, no thanks, but no thanks, Curly. I got to do this on my own. So Toodles Isaac, R.I.P. in that moment. So he goes to feed them, and the freaking eye monster, man. The eye monster is there, and just the way the sheep's face is through the whole episode kind of had me laughing every time. Like, this is the most judgmental sheep I have ever seen in my entire life. And I kind of want a spin-off series of just the sheep, even if it's just a sheep, like in a zoo, like watching people just being a judgmental eye on people. I kind of watch that, but I kind of want that. But you see the sheep now in the glass cage, and Isaac is in there too. He's in there and he's feeding this creature, that creature, whatever. And he's being watched, and then he adds the food on the tray for the fly. This episode, of course, is called The Fly, and he gives it the food for the fly, and he throws it in the little cage thing that he feeds him. It's kind of like a prisoner thing. I don't know if they do in prison or not. I've only seen it on TV. But they have like the thing. So he puts it in the gate, closes it for safety. But it's stuck. It's stuck. For whatever reason, it's stuck. And he accidentally rips it off because they're strong. That's the other thing, is these are children in superhuman strength bodies, and he rips the door off and he has a panic attack, and he decides to open the door to the fly to do that. And when he kind of gets in there, and he's kind of squeezing in so that nothing, he won't make a noise so the fly doesn't notice him. And when he does that, the sheep bashes his head against the glass, scaring Toodles. He drops on the ground, and the flies emerge from their cocoon hive thing and come down and just eat him. They kill him and then they eat him. It's gross. Very gross. It's kind of an emotional moment. You're like, oh man, this is a kid. Like, that's the thing. Like, it's a kid, and he's going through this, and you're seeing, these mistakes that are being made. But this is leading into an even bigger mistake now, because Joe goes to see Arthur, who's on his way out. He asks him where he's going. He goes, oh, no, I'm not fired. I'm just leaving. He goes, oh, you can do that? He goes, I guess I can. And in that moment, Joe asks Arthur if Wendy is safe. And Arthur can't give him a real answer. So he spouts some BS and then writes on the computer screen that he needs to get Wendy out of there and gives him the code to the boat. He says, get out of here. Here's the code. Get out. He turns off the tracker to Wendy, and in doing that learns that Toodles' tracker is not activated. They don't know where Toodles is. The last time Toodles was seen was in the secure lab. Joe leaves to get Wendy off the island. Arthur goes to find Toodles. Slightly is there watching. He just can't do it. And then Arthur appears and he locks Arthur in. Now, this was a moment that I got to talk about. Just got to talk about it, because this was one where I kind of was questioning things, because Arthur goes in, and Arthur knows enough that the secure lab is really only synthetics are allowed in there, obviously. So he's not employed there anymore. So I guess the rules don't apply to him, but at the same time, he's smart enough to know that probably he shouldn't have gone in there. But he goes in because he wants to save Toodles, because he cares for these hybrids, right? They bring this up earlier on, that these are basically his children. This is his family, are these hybrids, and he goes in there to save Toodles. So on that, as you kind of understand it, but then he unlocks the fly door to pull him out, and he pulls him out a little slow, I thought. Like, he was very slow on it, but slightly, while he's doing that, takes advantage of the situation and opens up the Xeno egg door, and then leaves and locks the door from the outside in. Arthur notices what's going on, drops Toodles, gets up, runs to the door, begs slightly to let him free. Not going to happen. In that time, you see the face hugger running around, which was really cool. I love that. I hope we get more of things like this. And then Arthur looks up and he makes a phone call, and you're like, Arthur, please get out of there. Please get out of there. He's not getting out of there. Arthur drops down slightly, kind of confused as to what's going on, because if you remember, Morrow said, they'll have a bad couple of days. So he goes down, throws him in a vent. The flies can't get to him. It looks like the flies don't really care about human flesh, is what I'm gathering from this. It seems like they kind of want to focus on, I guess, metal or synthetic or whatever. There's something there, the synthetic fluid like blood, whatever. There's something that attracts them to that, whereas they didn't really seem to care when Arthur was in there, right? They kind of were poking up, but it wasn't a big thing. They weren't really interested in Arthur so much. It seems like they really wanted Slightly, though. When Slightly came into the room and came into play, that's when they were like, hey, we're awake now, come to us, Slightly. Because of Toodles being a little kid trapped in a hybrid body, and because Slightly was being manipulated, hell now is loose on the island. The doors are open, the creatures are loose, things are escalating quickly. The Xenomorph has a look on its face I don't think I've ever seen before, where there's a realization coming through, and the damn sheep, just knows what's going on. And Wendy doesn't know her place right now. She's connecting with the Xenomorph. We see very early on in the episode that she's communicating with it, or trying to have a communication with the baby Xeno, who's now Xenomorph. So where that goes, I'm not quite sure. Will she be able to tame the Xeno or not? There have been trailers. I saw a few trailers drop, and things are coming up in the next few episodes. Don't know where I honestly don't know where Wendy's story is going. I have some ideas, obviously, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm kind of like, they could go in a bunch of different directions. Much like the eye monster, Kersh is lingering in the background, always watching, always observing, doing everything he can to manipulate the situation, it feels like. And when Boy Cavalere says, "Hey, is everything good?" Kersh looks at him with that synthetic face and says, "Affirmative." While on his monitor, he's got Arthur down with a face hugger over him, slightly dragging him out of the room, and a dead Toodles. There's a psychological layer to Kersh. But why didn't he tell Morrow he knew? And why did he not blow the whistle on Slightly? It's because he's letting events unfold naturally. This gives him insight, control, and potentially leverage. He mirrors the adult's manipulative tendencies while staying several steps ahead of them, which makes him one of the most smartest and morally ambiguous players on the island. And then the eyeball monster in the sheep's face stares with the most judgmental face of all, and me thinking, 2 more episodes to go. Now we're in for it, I think. I thought this episode would be a little bit more intense, a little bit more action-packed after last week. I thought last week they just kind of let the gates up and the flood was coming. But no, this one was another more slow, burny episode, which this series seems to really appreciate and enjoy telling. Now, whether that's your cup of tea, that's up to you. I kind of like that kind of stuff, so I'm okay with it. But I will say, I do think the action needs to pick up. We got to get there. I like the story they're planting. There's still some character flaws and some stuff that, they're getting into situations because of the writing more than anything else, which, sometimes takes away from it. But I've mostly just really been enjoying it. And this episode, again, I really enjoyed this episode. And now hell is breaking loose. It's like the end of that Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom movie where dinosaurs are free. Now that the creatures are all over the place. And we're going to see some craziness happen next week because they're going to learn about what happened in the lab. What's Kersh going to say? How are they going to react? And what is to come of Arthur? Will Wendy be able to tame that one as well? We'll find out next week. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Hit the like button, subscribe button, and until next time, may be the master of your own universe.